right, welcome back. Another snackable. Brett, Burky, Rick Allen, here we go. Teeing it off. Lots of good stuff going on right now in Paperstac and in the world, but we're here today. What are we talking about first? What do you have lined up for us to spew our knowledge out into the world of YouTube?
Well, one of the things that we're going to talk about for the snackable is the indicative offer, the indicative bid, why it's important, the things that you need to do as a buyer to make sure that you are, first off, making the best indicative offer, but also at the same time, making sure that there's some important things you want to let the seller know as you go out there into the world and do your due diligence during this indicative offer period. And as Rick, as one of the sellers on the platform, I'll let you roll with it.
Brett, tell me what's an indicative offer.
It's an armchair offer. This is the one after you've run a little bit of value, kind of looked at the stuff, gone through Zillow, looked around, kind of maybe poked around and got as much information as you can right off the bat. Now you're like, all right, this is what I'm willing to offer based off what I've found now. If things change in my due diligence and I find something that might change my bid, I will adjust my offer based off what I find. But we can agree to this.
Pretty close. So, yeah, that's pretty good. Indicative offer is essentially saying, look, based on what I've seen so far, as long as everything else in your collateral file, the pay history, and everything basically you've told me I find to be true, I'm good with my offer. And this is key to becoming a good buyer. So the first thing, indicative bid. If you're going to do it, you want to be able to run high-level values. You want to be able to run them pretty quickly. There's tons of resources out there. We even provide some of it with links to Zillow. But you want to get an idea of your value of the property. Zillow, Realtor.com, Trulia. There's a lot of them out there that you can go take a look at. Another thing you want to do is you want to drive the neighborhood, they say drive the neighborhood using something like Google Earth, to where you can get in there and make sure that, hey, this is an area that I want to use. This is an area that I want to invest in. I'm comfortable with that. These are all things that are going to help you become comfortable with the exterior part of running your due diligence, the stuff that is the surface level. I would also kind of request to look at some pay history up front. Just something quick. Say, here, can you just upload the pay history or something along those lines? So you want to make sure that if it's a performing loan that they are actually paying. You don't want to go spend time and money on valuation reports, on O&E reports, and come to find out that, wow, the payment history isn't exactly what they said it was. And also ask them, hey, what's your pay history look like? What's the most recent payments made? When are they due for? All that stuff should be on Paperstac and easily accessible by clicking on the Assets tab. But sometimes investors are not, or sellers are not updating that daily, like some of our other sellers have the data piped in from their servicer nightly. And so you're pretty much guaranteed that it's fresh data. And you can look at, one of the things to look at to kind of get a hint of, okay, how fresh is my data, is when you click on the assets page and you see all the loan data, at the title bar, you'll see something that says updated.
Oh, yeah.
When, and it'll tell you when the last time it was updated. Some of them you'll see updated 8 hours ago or 12 hours ago. Some of them you'll see updated a week, a month, 2 months. If you're in the 2-month category or you're past 30 days, it's a great time just to say, hey, I see that this was last updated, your data 2 months ago. Can you go ahead and give me some fresh pay history? Have they made their payments? It says here, last payment was made March 1st. Did they make the April and May payments?
Yeah. Most of the time, though, if after 30 days, their listings expire. So usually they do have to update stuff on there. So that usually we'll go past that, but one of those things.
Yeah.
I mean, they could, but yeah, most of the time it's like that.
So the importance of doing an indicative bid is to get to a negotiation point with the seller and get to a price to establish, hey, do I want to move forward? Do I want to spend time and money? It's so much as important for the seller as it is for the buyer.
Yeah. Because
you guys have an understanding like, hey, as long as everything checks out with the title, as long as you have all the documents, we're not missing any assignments, allonges, the note is actually there. You can start ripping through your due diligence pretty quickly, and you know that your bid's not changing. Now, if you start going through your due diligence and you find that, wow, there's some missing stuff in here, or the value is much lower than it's being represented, that's when you can go back after you've run all your due diligence and say, look, based on what I found in my due diligence, I'm going to need it at this price. If you've got a legitimate excuse or a legitimate fine gripe, most of the sellers are going to be okay with that, because they're in the business of moving product like you're in the business of buying product. So it makes transactions go much smoother. One of the things you will want to do is I usually offer my indicative bid and get to the point with the seller where I'm saying, look, this is my indicative bid. Here's my offer. If everything looks good, I'm moving forward. At that point, you can say, we can go ahead and now enter into contract. And maybe you've looked at all the digital files up to this point as well. And you're going to go, look, I'm going to go ahead, order my BPO, order my O&E report, and that's really going to be what seals it and it allows you to move forward or doesn't. On the flip side, if you're the seller, it's great to ask them, say, is this an indicative bid? Are you comfortable moving forward? Are you ready to close? Because you have to remember, as a seller, you're probably dealing with multiple offers, and you don't want to hang everything on a buyer who's really maybe just shopping this or kicking tires, looking in there to take a deep discount on something and just tying something up to come back and get it lower. And then as a seller, you know what's going on with your collateral file. You know if there's some deficiencies in there. The best thing as a seller is if you have an indicative bid on the table, if there are any deficiencies, let them know about it. Say, hey, FYI, there is a lost note. It's a lost note situation. I do have a lost note affidavit. Maybe you've got the borrower who has signed an estoppel. Those kind of things will help out.
Those are always good to put in the seller comments as well. All those things like that are great things to have. Even, hey, make your indicative offer. So, when they start the transaction, hopefully it's one of those things where you can kind of see who's the real buyer, because if they actually come in and don't ask the questions, as you just laid out the seller comments, you know that they're actually done little preemptive due diligence already. They've read, they are actually interested because they didn't just make blanket offers. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So that's the indicative bid. It's a great, it's kind of industry standard. It is standard in the industry. It's not something that's uncommon. People will make offers and they'll call them an indicative bid. Say, here's my indicative bid. And that's really just saying, like, look, as long as we're good with the collateral file, I'm good to move forward.
Pretty much. So one last big piece of advice. If you are the buyer in the transaction, if you haven't signed the purchase sale agreement, that means that you're still in the negotiation phase of the transaction, which means that seller is getting other offers. So now if you're going to go out there and maybe buy a BPO and an O&E report and spend about $160, you want to let the seller know, hey, you mind holding this off, or at least signing it get it the purchase sale agreement? Because once it's signed in the purchase sale agreement, you guys are officially in a closing. If something terrible shows up on the on title or whatever, you can always roll back out, no big deal. But at that point, at least you have first right to take it. Yeah, the goal should be to not roll anything out of closing ever. It should be you want to have a pretty high closing percentage once you hit closing. You want to have run all the preliminary due diligence. You've got your your bid accepted, and now it's just in case. That's kind of like your insurance policy in case something crazy comes back. But the goal is to not roll something back out of closing. Yep, that's indicative bid, indicative offer. Awesome. All right, then we'll see you on the next one, on the next Snackable or next podcast. If you got something that you want to have Rick cover, I'll just ask him the question that you asked in the comments, and we'll have another one come out here soon. Thanks. See ya.